Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lithuanian Hub and third session of medical device regulation. I'm very excited to have Celia Cruz from Complear Health, and today she will be with us to discuss about medical device regulation session third. And welcome, Celia.
Thank you so much for having me again, and welcome everyone to the part 3 of the beginner's look on the medical device regulation. So I want just today to make a brief recap and make some final tips on this step. So in part 1 we talked about defining the intended purpose and the device classification. This is a very important part and a very crucial part to start with, because from here you understand whether you're a medical device or not, which classification, and then which path you'll take, and what will you need to ensure and to validate. Then on part 2, we talked about very briefly what is a quality management system, some tips, and that design and development and risk management are a very important part of it. And then an overview of the technical documentation, that is the documentation that you need to gather with technical information, like the name says, on the medical device, and that if you have a classification that is higher than class 1, you're going to have it assessed by a notified body. And then you also may need to register in National Competent Authority and EUDAMED, and from there, CE mark. We have, after having the CE mark, it's important to know that it's not the end. You still need to maintain the quality management system, you need to ensure vigilance, you need to ensure the post-market surveillance, so do have an active surveillance and an active participation in understanding how you use your device on the market afterwards. Having a notified body, they will also do annual assessments, and even in every 5 years at least, there's going to be an announced audit. So some final tips, like mentioned, and it's really important to phrase it again. The intended purpose is the basis for the development and should be kept in mind during the entire development. It's really important to have it, and really important to understand what you're going to do, what is the intended purpose of your device, because that may lead and may change what the classification, the pathway, what you'll need to assess, and what you need to test from there. And then, of course, ensure the consistency between the intended purpose and the classification, as well with the claims, the data that you're gathering, all the information, including marketing claims, because then if you have on your website that you do something that is much more than your intended purpose, something is wrong. So you'll need to understand and have consistency between these. And it may look obvious, but one of the biggest things in the biggest findings in the technical documentation assessment by notified bodies is a lack of consistency. So it's a lot of documentation, so ensuring the consistency is really important. So back again to the first point, having that in mind all the time, what is the intended purpose, is very important. Then documentation and evidence gathering is crucial. Try to make justifications if you do some decisions, some deviations, what is one applicable, what is a scientific rationale whenever possible and applicable. Also because when you do them, probably have that rationale in mind if you're going to look at in the end. If you're going just to document that in the end and closer to the certification, you're going to forget why you made those decisions and why those were important. Or at least there you will understand, okay, maybe I should have substantiated it more. And maybe you have collected more information, but then you have that already gathered. Don't underestimate the time and resources needed, and especially involving notified bodies. And recently, because of the change from the previous directives to the medical device regulation, there are less notified bodies, even though their number is growing, but still their availability is not that, they are still not that much available. Some of them are at capacity, so it takes some time to get into the market. And of course, in terms of resources, both the human resources needed to understand and to gather everything, but also financial resources to ensure not only that the time that you're not yet on the market, how you're going to survive with your company, but also the time that you need, the financial resources needed to pay for the notified bodies or to pay for the tests, clinical evidence, and all that. Try to involve all the internal team in the regulatory process, and I mean development, risk management, clinical evidence, statisticians, technical writers, medical writers. So all the different people and different perspectives are important, and they are crucial, and they have something to say probably because on how your solution and how your medical device was done that way and why it was done some tests. So it's really important to have their input also within the regulatory process. Gather some internal expertise and also understand which expertise you don't have internally, and perhaps try to get that information externally whenever needed. Risk management is really important to have throughout the entire lifetime of the device, and connecting with the previous. It's really important also to have the inputs from the entire team. So possibly someone that does the development has some perspective on some risks. If you have someone from the clinical side, perhaps they have some other understanding in terms of the risks, and their input together is really, really important. Also, people from the regulatory, from the quality, they may give different inputs that may be really important for having the risk management. And now, of course, it will depend on your expertise in your case, in every case, but sometimes it can be more time and cost effective to invest in regulatory and quality expertise. Having people in-house, or having someone or hiring experts or having consultants can be really important, and having their input in an early stage of the process can be important. Either you betting on that and having someone having to learn all that process and understanding and gather some needed expertise in some specific points can be and can prove to be less time consuming, less resources consuming than sometimes trying to do that just in the end and from scratch and try to save some pennies in the end. Just also one final note, don't panic. I know this process may seem difficult and it was just an overview, but it needs a lot of time and resources, but remember that the ultimate goal is the safety and the quality of your device. That's the goal of all this regulation. That's why all this was why the new regulation was changed, and that's the entire goal. Just one final note. We at Complear are also part of a boot camp in regulatory pathways to market. If you have an early stage startup, look at it, and it will show what and how to bring the medical device idea to the market, and it will help navigate a part of this process. So we'll learn much more on this side, not only from the regulatory perspective, also from the reimbursement part, health technology assessments, and more. We'll have many other partners in this bootcamp. And feel free to add me on LinkedIn and follow Complear also on LinkedIn. We'll gather some expertise. If you have some specific questions, you also may do them either through the posts on LinkedIn or directly if needed in those specific questions. So that's what I wanted to bring in a very resumed way, and what is possible within this time. So thank you very much for your attention. Banu, perhaps you have some questions or some comments.
Celia, thank you for this informative presentation, and I'm sure that all the audience after this record will learn a lot about this medical device regulation issue, because it is something very new for us. And nowadays, with the innovative results of the research project of our students, or when we meet in the community, we have some new ideas to turn them to medical devices. Now we have to learn this, we know this, and we are feeling very alone when we think about market, financial issue, management, intellectual properties, patenting them. Everything is so confusing issue for us. Thank you for this detailed and very, how you say, brief information about this field. And when you're giving the final tips to us, I thought something that is very different when we consider different countries, like the medical device regulations, like how the different regions or countries approach medical device regulations. You are an international expert, that's why I wanted to ask this question to you.
Sure. So I present to you the perspective and how it works within the European Economic Area. So within the European Economic Area, this is the overall process. Of course, within some countries there may be some adjustments and some other requirements. Also, one thing that within this area, language requirements. So different countries within Europe have different language. So, for example, if you have a software, you may have to translate all the interface and instructions for use and labeling. If you have other devices, instructions for use and labeling will need to be understandable. Different countries may have different requirements also in terms of whether your device is for use of a layperson or of a healthcare professional, for example. So this is for this area. For example, Switzerland and Turkey and Iceland and Norway also. I mean, Norway was also part of the European Economic Area, but some of these also
follow the same regulation.
Follow the same regulation. UK, given Brexit, changed and is now looking at their own regulation, still accepting the CE mark. Within the United States, the process, even though that the basics and the knowledge, having a quality management system is similar, the technical documentation, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but the level, the information needed to be gathered is more or less similar, of course, depending on the device and depending on what we are talking about. There may be some more specific requirements, standards that needs to be followed may differ a little bit between different regions. Also, some guidances that were made. I mean, the United States has the regulation hasn't changed that much, like in the EU. So they have a more robust guidance documents right now than in the EU. And Canada also has their own, Australia also. So it differs in different regions, but following the type of thinking and way of structuring things is more or less similar. Of course, then you'll need to make some adaptations and look into your specific type of device.
Thank you. And I have one more question. Actually, you mentioned that at the previous session. Nowadays, there are many software solutions about digital health. Since we are from solution engineer hub, the question is this: and what we offer for the entrepreneurs or startups who are interested in developing new medical devices as a software? So it is something new, and actually we find something, then we start to consider about the market and the rest. but maybe it is important to start earlier, just about documentation or quality management or clinical affairs. So what do you offer to us for the entrepreneurs, startup guys, and students or the clinicians for medical devices software companies?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that's something that at Complear we focus. So I focus a lot in what is software, and first defining what is the intended purpose. And again, I've been talking about that over and over, but it's really important to understand whether you're a medical device or not at first stage. Some of them are clearly a medical device, some of them are clearly not a medical device, some of them are borderline depending on what is claimed. So understanding that and understanding the strategy, so what you want to claim and do you have a medical purpose or not, is really important. Also in that case, try to look into different regions, because sometimes you have, I'll start in the European Union, perhaps in the United States your path is easier because what is a medical device and the different requirements and oversights may be a little bit different depending on the regions. So have a look at it. But being a medical device and entering that path, or if you're in the doubter in the future may be a medical device, something that I recommend, beyond of course having understanding the intended purpose and defining the strategy that is crucial, is starting by at least having the quality management system, at least the part of the design and development and risk management. Those are one of the critical parts of the entire process that are going to give information for the technical documentation. And if you start with that in mind, you're going to document things, you're going to think into how to design better and how to follow the best practices of software development already according, or at least partially according to what is required, and then it will be much easier later on to follow everything. Because if you do just in the end, that is what happens most of the times, then you have to do in retrospective, why did I decide this? Maybe did I do the enough risk management? Perhaps you understand, okay, there were some risks I didn't identify, now I'm going to have to change the algorithm and redo some tests again. Perhaps I didn't understand clearly and I don't remember already, why did I do this way? And so having this already set from the beginning, it may take you a little bit more time to develop things, but in the end it will be much faster. And it will already give you some of what are and the sensibility you're going to learn and to improve all the design and development process and all the risk management process. So at least start from there and have that in mind in the beginning, and then in the end or closer to the end, start looking into the other parts. Design and development, risk management, also one thing. Supplier, especially if you're outsourcing something or outsourcing the development of software, sometimes that happens, and it's important that you understand what is important straight ahead. Otherwise, you may have to redo everything or redo a part of it. And let's face it, I mean, as small companies, or we don't want to have to redo everything.
Yeah. So if we are also new startup people, we should also consider about this to start earlier and the planet strategy. And thank you, Celia, for these very answers for us. It was so we are very lucky about this course. Thank you for taking your time to speak with us today and sharing your knowledge and expertise with medical device regulatory affairs, and your also insights about ISO standards, quality management, and also life cycle of medical device. We appreciate your dedication to this field and your willingness to share your expertise with us. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much also for having me and for inviting me to share more on the regulatory process. It's always a pleasure to talk about these topics, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.